Welcome to the Rooted Warriors, the podcast where the bonds of sisterhood are not just celebrated, but explored through laughter, tears, and everything in between. Join me and my two dearest friends as we dive deep into the roots of our own friendships, sharing stories and challenges. Whether you're looking for inspiration, advice, or just a good story, we're here to bring a piece of our sisterhood right into your life.
Hello, my fierce freedom fighters. Welcome back to Rooted Warriors, where truth, conversation, and unshakable American grit collide. I'm Kat, and today we're diving into what truly makes this nation great, our presidents. This isn't a history lesson. It's a tribute to the iron will, bold decisions, and unyielding patriotism that have forged America into the powerhouse it was meant to be. We honor the legacy of those who stood tall and the brave souls who bled red, white, and blue, sacrificing everything for the freedoms we hold dear. Whether they led us through trials or laid down their lives for liberty, we humbly remember them with pride and gratitude. Here we stand on the shoulders of giants. It's our turn to fight for the America they believed in.
Today we have a very special guest. Not that all of our guests aren't special, but this one is close to our heart.
Extra.
At just 22 years old, he is already making waves as a respected entrepreneur, as a CEO of Relic Incorporated. And you might know him from your local favorites, such as Gold Dust or Falcon's Lair and Ice Cream Emporium. So I wanted to welcome Jeremiah Willey.
Yay.
So excited.
I'm so excited too.
I mean, besides the fact that he's so handsome.
Isn't he cute?
Cute as a
Easy
button.
on the
All
eyes.
the looks went right there.
Look at that proud mama face.
Yeah,
She's
pretty
all, "That's my
handsome.
boy."
Pretty handsome.
Pretty handsome. Yeah, there's nothing like a mother's, like our sons.
Yeah.
We just think that they're the best.
Yeah, they're our favorite men.
Yeah.
No
Right.
doubt.
So
For sure.
how I feel like we haven't been here in forever.
No, and it's only been a week.
Isn't that bizarre?
But when we're not together, it's like eternity, ladies.
It is.
It feels like eternity.
Well, we
does.
had so many big things happen. I think
We
that we
did.
just didn't get a chance to really touch base in the middle of it all. So we just
so big.
Yeah,
a whole week passed and it was
Wow.
zero contact.
it was. Zero.
Zero.
Mm.
Yeah. So it's nice to be together.
Yeah, it is nice to be together. Andy, how was this passing week?
You're still here. You're breathing. That's a good start.
Yeah, I haven't died yet or anything like that. But no, I'm just kidding. I went on a bestie trip. We were doing this whole empty nest. Let's rejuvenate and go to the beach and put our feet in the sand and do all this
Jealous.
stuff. Yeah. Right. And I
Nice.
was excited. We went to a Def Leppard concert.
So rad.
Yeah,
That
right.
is
Steve
rad.
Miller Band was there, and so was Journey. What? I was super stoked about that. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Second day, though, we went and got coffee. We walked 3 miles down the beach, and I step on a rock, and I cut the bottom of my foot open. I walked 3 miles back. That part was actually really fun, believe it or not. But yeah, 3 miles back, and
I would have done it so dramatically. Like on one
Seriously.
knee, just
I'd be like, who's
raping
carrying
the
me?
ground.
and if you know what? I had the best friend ever. She like takes off her tank top from underneath her sweatshirt, wraps it around my foot, pulls out her drawstring, wraps that around that to like
Oh my
make this little
goodness.
like
Tourniquet for you.
tourniquet.
Aw.
I know, right? And then she had to help me with the dressing on it every however many times I had to do it.
Every 100 steps.
So I get all the way back down the beach, and finally a beach patrol pulls up, and we're like, that would have been nice about 3 miles back that way, but okay, at least he's here, and I don't have to walk across the parking lot. And he's all, yeah, you're definitely gonna have to get stitches, and well, we don't do that. So we're like, yeah, no needles in the bottom of the feet, and we just took care of it. But hydrogen water and doing awesome
Sweet.
good stuff. But here I am on crutches, and
So little birdie told me that you became really good friends with your beach patrol guy.
oh my gosh, I was like, do you have a husband? Or I'm sorry. I said, no, stop. Do you have a wife? He wasn't that kind of beach patrol, but we were in San Francisco. So no, I said, you said you have a wife, right? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm so afraid to tell my husband that I did this because I really cut myself bad.
Right.
I just left him for like the first time to go on this trip.
You couldn't break yourself.
Yeah. I'd have to walk 3 miles back on the beach. Yeah.
Didn't you just break yourself not too long ago at your mom's?
She did.
Well, that
On
wasn't
the stairs.
Yeah, that was like a year and a half ago, but it's
just
like
seems
once a year I
Yeah.
have to do something.
Very
This
recent.
time it was like, what did I do wrong? So the rock I cut myself on was man-made. It was cement with rocks in it. It was
Right.
broken off of something, and he said he picks up at least 10 a day.
Wow.
Because he said a lot of
They
people
wash
hurt
in?
themselves.
Wow.
And so I cut myself on that. I have video of it.
It's crazy.
I'll post the video. No, but
Oh.
really, I say a bad word in the video. But Jen was like, "You are so calm," because I kind of went F, and then I was like, "Well, shit." I was like, "I cut myself."
Nope.
We're still getting used to it. She can't find the censored button.
It's a great button. Nope, still back on intro.
Oh, it's back on the modes.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, no.
Would have
So
been perfect timing.
It would've been.
Okay.
we should have been more scripted.
Yeah.
See,
we're not
folks,
though.
we're not. Yeah,
We're
we're
not.
that authentic. So
Anyway,
anyway,
like I said F and then S.
I know F and then I can't say it. I can't say it. It's so funny. So anyway, yeah, big shout out to Beach Patrol. Sean's the
Whoop,
hero. Yeah. So anyway, he needs a raise, guys. So
Did he say that?
Did Sean
No,
tell you to say that?
but he does have a daughter, so I'm just putting
She
the word out
knows
there.
everything about this
He needs
guy.
a raise.
She knows everything about this guy. He has a wife and a daughter.
She called while he
Needs
was
a
treating my
raise.
foot. So
She called in our 5-hour conversation.
I know, right? I was not very tough. I was so
Were you in
I
a
was
lot of
so
pain, huh?
bummed. Well, as soon as he said I had to go get stitches and go to the hospital, and Sean, next time don't tell the person that they have to get a shot like 3 times. He's like the needle's really bad, and that's a really painful spot. And I was like, okay,
Okay, you know
thanks.
what? He's not getting a raise. Sean's
Okay,
out.
yeah, right. Ixnay that. No, I'm just kidding. So, what about you, Miss Gina?
I had a very exciting week. I'm a
You-
grandma again.
Did you mermaid dance and step on a rock?
No,
Oh,
no, I didn't. I was traumatized though last Sunday by the birth of my granddaughter.
Tell us
So
all
that
about it.
was-
it went like that.
Oh gosh, it was just that's hard. It's hard to watch my son watch his partner in so much pain, and he's just such an empath. So,
And he's helpless.
yeah, and he's so good. He's such a good partner to her, and she wanted to go all natural. She wanted nothing. She just wanted to feel the pain, to be present during the birth, and um I wouldn't say that the hospital, it was really shocking actually how against it they were.
Oh, well, they can't charge the insurance company if she doesn't take the
Yeah,
medication.
Well,
I
also,
mean-
it makes their job harder. So that's
They were
sometimes
just
part of it.
like every person that walked in, they were like, "Oh, and that's what you're doing. Did you decide that on your own?" type of thing. Like
Oh,
they were just
gosh.
really discouraged it. And so
Hmm.
then that was really discouraging to her.
For sure.
Right?
You're a warrior,
But
mama.
after kind of just sitting at like 7.5 centimeters, she wasn't progressing. She kind of got into bed and labored. They put her on some Pitocin,
Mm.
and
Then
And
it
they-
kicks.
Gotta kick it in. Yeah.
they kicked it into gear, and then they kicked it into gear again, and then when they had her pushing,
Was
the
she not
baby-
dilating? Is that what was wrong? What was wrong?
I mean, she did great to 7, and then I think the baby went to sleep.
She's
and
like,
she was tired.
I'd like a late checkout.
Yeah, but I mean, Lily did great. What a warrior! Holy smokes! But it just towards the end, she was like 9.5, 9.5. It just there was like a lip still stuck on the baby's head. It's just not going anywhere. And then when she finally started pushing, they were just like, "We think she's stuck."
Oh, my
Not
goodness.
saying it, but as the room filled with more nurses and now NICU, and just it felt very chaotic. Me
Intense.
kind of standing back watching what was going on. It became almost an emergency situation. The baby, she was coming out with her hand on top of her head, or like squished like this to the side. And so that wasn't making its way under her pelvic bone. So they gave her a real quick episiotomy and yanked the baby out. And so she had been in there just a little bit too long.
Mm.
And very stressed out. So she went pretty much straight to the NICU. She struck a fever very quickly. I'm going to say 5 minutes after birth.
Wow.
And it was because like when they're in the sac, right? It's sterile. It's a sterile environment.
Sure.
But she had been dry. She broke her water broke at 10 o'clock the night before.
Bacteria.
Yeah. So she got a fever. And then of course, while she's there, she gets jaundice. So her poor
She
little
went
thing
through
was
it.
just fighting it. And
So she got to sunbathe for a while under the lights.
under a blue light. Yeah. And then, but
Mm.
she was healthy as can be. I mean, 20 inches long, almost 20 inches long, and then 8 pounds.
She's
even.
big one.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Her eyes already are beautiful. And, obviously they're not fully developed, but you can tell that baby's going to have eyes just like
She's-
Anthony.
Yeah.
She's stunning.
She is.
She's
She's
so
sweet.
crazy beautiful.
Yeah.
So cute.
And it was hard watching Anthony. You watch Lily, he was up. If you like, I don't feel like I buckle under pressure, but holy shit, does that kid buckle? I mean, he just like gives in. Like I quit, and he was where
He
she's
said that, oh.
no, he couldn't take it anymore.
Right.
When she every time she would get a contraction, and she just did so good, and he would just cry.
He's absorbing
He
her
was
energy.
like, "Mom, make it stop for her." And I'm like, I'm so helpless here. Like I can't do anything.
Well, no one knows her the way that Anthony does.
Yeah.
So he
and
feels
so
it
he
for her.
knows.
Very connected.
They
and
are.
he's really good to her. So he's just madly in love with this baby. They're just in awe. It was hard to watch them have to be in the NICU. And obviously not what they had, planned, but they're home.
Okay.
And just happy as can be.
I love the post that
Oh.
Anthony did,
Mhm.
shouting everyone out and, him and the baby walking out
Oh
together
my
and,
gosh, I know.
shouting out his wife. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved it.
He'll be built for all the things that are to come. With a labor and delivery like that, there's
Mhm.
nothing he won't be able to overcome after
No.
watching his wife
Yeah.
and his baby go
And
through
they're
that.
just super troopers. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just, and even he has such a great sense of humor. Like he's my
always
funny.
so positive.
Yeah. So I think the first night that they were home all night long, and I brought them coffee and breakfast sandwiches the next morning, and I was like, "How was it?" And he's like an heaven siren. Like she's a bully, Mom. Like
They are.
she cried for he's like, I didn't even know something could do that and make that sound. But he has like such a good sense of humor about
That's
all
so
of
funny.
it.
That doesn't surprise me. He gets that
Yeah.
from you.
Yeah. So I'm glad that she's here, that Lily is,
Healthy now.
healthy, and that everything really went the way, it needed to go. Like I feel like I was having some
Empathy pain.
no, towards the end, I'm going to go back to what my mother must have felt when I had Marcus.
And you don't know until you know, right?
No.
So I felt the exact same way when Katie was having a baby, and you'll see when Maddie one day has a baby, you'll see that there's no feeling quite like that. I'd much rather push out a baby myself
You were shook
than
when you
have my
talked about
child
it.
than have my child do it, because it's just like when your child gets hurt, or if a child has cancer. I'd rather take
Mhm.
cancer.
Yeah.
I'd rather die than see
Mhm.
my child die
100%.
1,000 times over.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of feeling, because it's a beautiful thing, but it's also your
So
child has to suffer
scary.
so much to give birth. And it's just so funny to me that us as women think that, oh, we have to be like a man. I don't want to be like a man, first of
No.
all.
Yeah.
There's so
Thank
much
you.
power in itself of being a woman. And
Yeah.
I'm proud of being a woman. And I don't want to be a man, and I don't
Yeah.
want to take his space. And he
No.
does things that I can't do. And I
100%.
honor and appreciate that.
Well, including sitting across from her and watching her go through something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know that us
Yeah.
women would be able to watch you know what I mean? Like
Ugh.
that's a different
It's a different vibe.
dynamic.
It is.
And that takes a lot of strength
It
for
does.
a man to watch that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
men are amazing, and so are women, and we're
Yeah.
so individually made, and it's beautiful.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
100%.
For sure.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus.
Well,
Yes.
before we go on, can you please give us the stats? You didn't say her name or anything. So
Oh yeah, we need stats.
How much did she weigh? And
She
how
said
long
she
was
had 20 inches, 8 pounds.
Yeah. So almost 20 inches, 8 pounds. She's like 8 pounds, 4 ounces right now. She has little rolls all over her and like this little double chin. So it's the cutest baby ever.
Why isn't my double chin cute, Gina?
It's so cute.
My
So
so cute.
Yes. Ophelia Lorraine.
Love it.
So I want to say that it's namesake after her grandmother.
Okay.
Her mother came down to be with Lily, and thank God for that woman, because I've never got to spend too much time with Lily's mom, but what an amazing woman.
Awesome.
I mean, I praise her for being there, and it's exactly what Lily needed.
Yeah.
100%.
There's times where you can only have a mother there.
Oh yeah,
Well,
for
think
sure.
about her going through that little well, it wasn't a little hurdle. It was a huge hurdle without her there. I mean, that must have made her feel very like at peace
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
her mom was with her
For sure.
during that time too.
So that's how my week went.
Wow. That's a lot.
Congratulations.
It's a lot.
Yes.
It's a lot,
Yeah.
but congratulations.
Yes.
A
thank you.
grandmother again.
Again.
I love it.
Otra vez. Yes.
Otra vez.
Otra
Yeah.
vez.
So yeah. What about you, Miss Phil?
So I had an eventful week. We made some business moves, really good moves. You guys know we went out of state. We made some decisions there, came back, made some decisions here. So we got some things in the works. We're excited. Marching forward. I'm falling really good into my space now. Like I am doing things that I actually like doing work-wise. So that way I can still contribute, still work, but yet have weekends, nights, and that freedom that I want. And so that's great. And, it's hard to give up working completely when, you're only 46 and you're the kind of person I am.
Right.
So, I had to come to terms with that because I really wanted it to be like, I'm done, because I've been so frustrated and, overwhelmed. And then I was like, no, I just need to find my space.
A balance.
A balance.
Right? A balance.
Yes.
And where your health is not interrupted inside of that.
Yes, 100%. But I can't be like sitting around the house, like watching the news with Bob. Like that's going to kill me.
You just have to start working at something else.
Yeah.
And then you delegate it off to these guys.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I'm
businesses
doing.
and pass them on or start a hobby and pass that on.
Yeah, speaking of hobbies, I've been doing candle making. And on Labor Day, I had the kids over and we did candle making. I did pasta beans. We did make your own subs. And it was fun.
I love that.
It's like therapeutic when you do a hobby like that, right?
Yes.
Like a crafty type hobby. I don't know why it's therapeutic, but it really is.
Weird. You and Greg are some of the most alpha people I know, and yet both of you are the candle makers. What does that mean exactly?
It means that we're in touch with our feminine side.
He only makes unscented white candles, but like he makes the candles.
I think they're amazing.
Strange.
I love them.
And what a great season.
It is. And so I got, because I can't do anything in moderation because I'm
So she's got labels and now they have a logo. No, I'm
it's
just joking.
literally a candle factory.
Yes.
So I have everything you want. I think I have 30 cents. I have 45 pounds of soy wax.
Oh yeah.
I have different dried fruits you can put in it and flowers and colors and
You have a website?
multiple
Her hobby cost her
I wanna buy one
$10,000
now.
last week.
No, it was $500 and it's a write-off. I have to use all of those candles at Falcon's Lair.
Oh yes. There we go.
But so it's fun and I love it. So I feel like as long as I have creative things that I'm doing that keep me fun and happy and I'm traveling still, I'm a happy person and I still get a little work, get my feet still in there. I love that. But yet I'm not groveling every day. I'm just not at that anymore. I'm done with that.
Keeping your mind busy.
Yeah, I got to keep my mind busy or I'll go crazy.
I love it.
Well, what about you, Jeremiah? Well, how was your week?
It was pretty good. I think piggybacking off Mo, I need to get closer. Sorry. We went to Tennessee a little over a week ago and we made some business moves over there, some decisions, and then we came back here and we hit the ground running as soon as we got back here too. So I think I'm pretty happy at this point. Every day I wake up, I'm excited to get back at it, which is always a good sign. I think all of us have gone through periods where we wake up and we're not super excited about the day ahead. And so I'm glad I'm in this like season of my life where I'm excited again to get back moving and I'm excited about the grind and I feel like I'm more motivated than ever. So
I love that.
Speaking of motivation, do you have like motivational people you follow or anything like that? Who's your favorite?
You know, with social media and everything, you see a lot of these motivation speakers and business coaches and life coaches. I just think overall it's kind of gimmicky.
Mhm.
I think they have a place for certain people. I think though, like the best motivation you get is inner motivation. So if you don't have that and you have to rely on external motivations, then you're already setting yourself up for failure. So I try to set
Right.
myself up for success. So
And it's not always about just the grind, it's that balance.
exactly.
And they're like such a hustle, and like never take a break or never enjoy life, which it can't be about that.
Exactly. And I mean, I have like ADHD, so I always have to be moving around. Even right before I go to bed, I'm still moving around and doing stuff. But for me, I need to have certain things in my daily routine that kind of keep me grounded. Like every single morning, I need to go for a walk, and a couple times a week, I need to lift.
Mhm.
And there's certain things like that. As long as I have that and I'm working, I'm happy. So
Yeah, and your family keeps you busy with all those businesses.
true that.
sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And super proud of, we just had a really big meeting. And when we were in this meeting, there was one lady that was there that, is amazing. And she's the CEO of this particular company and is a land developer and is phenomenal in her own account. And Jeremiah was just amazing in this meeting and very professional, very intelligent, asked the right questions. And, it's impressive to see someone so young bring that to the table.
Yeah, Greg was saying that he's talks well, he speaks well, and he
Mhm.
makes good decisions. He says that he's like he likes that you're so decisive,
Yeah,
and
that's
that
for
you
sure.
know, and that you know that you have this idea and you're willing to be patient and watch it like flourish. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and I think that's something I've learned too, and I'm still like learning every single day. Because naturally my personality is more like take action right away, which a
Mhm.
lot of times that's a good thing. But in business, especially, you have to be patient and you have to let things unfold before you make decisions. Because a lot of the times, if you make that decision from the gun, it's going to hurt you at the end. So I think it's better, especially with the father that I have, who's overly patient sometimes and indecisive. I've learned a lot from him in the sense of that I watch him kind of be patient and take a back seat. And so I'm trying to implement that more too when it comes to my business decisions. So
What do we call that? Unrooted warriors. I'm just
And
joking.
yeah, and I think that, Bob is really humble with that. And I
Mhm.
think that most men are not like that, where he's willing to take that back seat and to, be humble. And I think that's a good lesson for Jeremiah and I, because our personality is the opposite of that. So yeah, I'm glad to see that Jeremiah is trying to work on traits like his father. I think that's good.
Yeah.
ADHDers. You're amongst
100%.
your people.
Oh, yeah.
You're amongst your
You're
people,
amongst
bud.
your people.
So, from Andy's intro, which was
Amazing.
beautiful and amazing, I almost like stood up, like
Put my hand over my heart.
Yes, salute.
Aw.
I heard that this episode is all about our presidents.
Correct. So I think Andy hit the nail on the head with the intro for what our office of the president stands for. When each president takes the oath of office, they believe whether you voted for them or not, that they would make a positive impact for our country. So I know, obviously, I assume most of you guys have voted for president at one point or
Yes.
not.
Ever since I could vote.
And so
Mhm.
whether or not the president
sorry,
you
you
voted
can't
for got
assume.
into office, I truly believe that each president that has taken the oath believed that they were going to make a positive impact for our country. So my whole job today is not to sway you guys one way or another. I'm just going to give you guys some background information on the Oval Office.
Awesome. I'm so
Nice.
Love
excited.
that.
History lesson by Jeremiah.
Well, how often do
Yeah.
we really get a touch on that type of thing
I
now
love
that
it.
we're not in school and things like
I
that?
like hearing stuff like this.
Yeah, and this is a disclaimer. I'm not a professor of presidential history, but I am a self-proclaimed expert. So
Correct
That
them in the
works.
comments
Yes.
if you want
yeah,
to
you
talk
can
to
definitely
them.
correct me,
Yeah,
fact
yeah.
check me all you want.
Sure.
And
Well,
like I
this-
said, each citizen has an opinion on each presidency, whether you favor them or not.
Mhm.
But each one has changed the progression of our country. So
It's such a key time for us to be talking about this.
100%.
Yeah,
don't
it's
you
getting
think?
close to election. Yeah,
Right,
I like
right.
that.
100%. So we're gonna start it off. You guys have your dry erase markers and your
Yes,
paddle,
sir.
right?
We sure do.
Alrighty, so we're gonna start off with a little trivia.
Does it have to be spelled correctly?
No.
Okay, good. Then I have
Just
a
get
shot.
close. First letter is good.
It sounds like.
So what we're gonna be doing is I'm gonna go through in chronological order some of our presidents, and I want you guys to write I'm going to give you a number. So like the 12th president, for example, and you're going to tell me or write down what you think, who you think was the 12th president. Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to
Just don't
start.
look at each
No,
other.
no, I'm not going to do 12. But this is just to get an understanding of what
Okay.
your guys' knowledge of our presidents are. So.
Just tell you that.
There's going to be hopefully some easy ones. So we're going to start off with, I think, probably one of the easiest ones, which
Okay.
is the first president. So each of you guys can write that down. First or last name or both.
My pen doesn't
Gina was
work.
trying to cheat.
I was seeing if your pen worked because mine doesn't work.
This one.
Cheater.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm over here hiding it.
Oh
my
as if-
God.
as if I
Okay.
have the right.
I'm not going to get any of these right. Jeremiah's going to be like, so Andy's a really great chick and I like her, but she's not
very wordy
smart.
and very
This is
patriotic.
not, yeah, this is
know
not
how to
my
spell
gig. History
either.
isn't my
It
gig.
doesn't matter. He said
No,
it
no,
doesn't
no, no.
matter.
Yeah, don't. don't worry
Okay,
about
tell us when you're ready.
Alrighty. 3, 2, 1. Turn your paddles. All right, we'll start off with Mo. She's got it right. What? George Washington.
George works.
Okay,
Andy's right.
I didn't get
And
too
she's
far.
got. I see
I
a
was
W.
still trying to spell it correctly.
Oh my God.
Okay, so we started off with the easy one. We're
Okay.
gonna work to number 5, fifth president. This president was our last founding father that was a president.
There's an H in here. No.
All right, everyone ready?
it. No.
Gina's got Lincoln over there,
No, I did the same
Mo's
thing,
got
which
Jefferson.
is wrong.
Jefferson.
and what do we have over there?
No,
Abe for
nothing.
Lincoln.
You
Oh, Abe
don't have
Lincoln?
anything.
Is it Jefferson?
So our 5th president was James Monroe,
Oh, we're all wrong.
I don't
and
know.
this is not to make you guys feel.
Stupid.
Yeah, it's not. I just want to get an understanding of where we're at.
Listen, I
'Cause
want our warriors to play along with
So
us
you
and see if they can get it right.
okay.
Just be guaranteed that we're starting to square one.
Yeah. Well, I
We're
think
gonna go third grade for sure.
We are not
well,
smarter
there
than
was
a
a
fifth grader.
segment
Yeah, no.
on Jimmy Kimmel where they did a trivia with presidents, and they walked up to citizens just like walking around, and they were asking them like, "Who's the first president?" And it was like baffling to see how many people are so. It's not ignorant, but just uneducated on our presidential history, and
They
so
weren't even sure who was the president now.
yeah,
Or
exactly.
who their governor
Which
or mayor was.
is sad because the whole reason why we have our country is so that each citizen has a say, and that's why we all are allowed to vote is so we have a say. And so to see that a lot of our citizens now don't even know our history, and even worse, they don't even care about our future. It's a little disheartening, but
Right. And
Yeah.
that's who
Yeah.
you have as your peers growing up alongside you.
yeah.
Or
And I definitely
whatever.
did have some peers that were pretty aware of the political atmosphere and our history. And I don't necessarily think our history is, you don't need to know all the presidents in order, and you don't need to know what each one did, but it is good to know a little bit about your country's history.
History determines the
Agreed.
future.
100%.
Mhm.
And history doesn't repeat, but it definitely does rhyme. So
Mhm. And you know what? It doesn't really matter when you decide to start making changes in your life about learning about this.
yeah,
Action is actually what matters.
100%.
You know.
Agreed.
So we got a few more. So
Okay.
number 16.
What? um,
All right, everyone got their.
You wrote it like you knew it.
She's
Yes, I
got
do.
it. Yeah, Lincoln.
'Cause I do.
okay, I was
Hoover?
not right.
No.
No, I was wrong.
Well, because that's one I do know.
Yep.
How? Why?
Because everyone talks about Lincoln, so I actually wanted to know what
I
was so
said
great
that
about him.
last time
Besides
and
him
I was
being shot in the
way
head and
off.
freeing the slaves, I wanted to know other stuff about him.
Yeah.
Oh.
And also,
Oh.
I really like at Disneyland great moments with Mr. Lincoln.
It's a great ride.
Right.
It is.
Or
It's,
attraction.
it's Bob's favorite because it's
He gets
very-
to sit down in the air conditioning.
and sometimes he eats and drinks.
Yeah.
And to me, this is your bag. You have a really big interest in history.
I
and-
do, but I'm not good at
But you
the
don't have to be to
memorization
have
of
an
it. But I
interest.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right.
I just like I appreciate fine art. I really
Mhm.
do in all forms. I don't know anything about it, so
Right.
I appreciate it. I think it's beautiful. Same thing with classical music. I love it,
Mhm.
but I don't know if that's Beethoven or if it's Mozart.
right.
I just know if I like it or not. And so I'm uneducated, but I appreciate really cool things.
yeah.
And I
that's
think
neat.
history is really cool and really important.
And the cool thing is you're willing to learn it.
yeah,
You're
and I
willing to
mean,
grow.
I'm not going to retain a whole lot at this age, but I'm going to
Sorry.
enjoy the ride.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So our next one's going to be the 35th president.
Okay, so we got to do a little
Ooh,
deduction.
right?
Who'd you write?
I can't
So
spell.
I'll give you guys a little bit of a hint. So
I
our
don't need
45th president was Donald Trump.
Okay.
Mhm.
So 10 before him.
I spelt it wrong, just so
It's
we're
okay.
clear. Okay.
Gina's got it correct. JFK,
Oh,
John Kennedy.
I said Johnson.
You're one off.
It's
Yeah,
really close.
that's pretty close.
It's really close. I'm just figuring too, guys, that it's obviously somebody popular. He's not gonna,
Correct.
stump us. I mean,
He's
the
not
fifth
gonna
one
say-
kind. The fifth
Yeah,
one
I know
kind
it's a
of.
should've known.
curveball,
The
but
fifth one kind of
But
stumped us.
JFK is super important. I mean, like as far as presidents are concerned,
Yeah.
as far
Yeah,
as I
100%.
It's very important.
and we're gonna
like,
get to him
he's-
later.
Yeah,
But yeah.
he was outstanding.
And our last one is the 40th president. Once
Ooh,
again,
okay.
Kennedy was your 35th and Trump was your 45th. So he meets right in the middle of those two. All right, Gina's got Bush. Mo's got Reagan.
I was gonna say Reagan too.
Oh shit! What number was it?
But
Oh,
there's
shoot,
two
I just cursed.
Bushes.
Excuse me.
Yeah, so it's
Two
like a win-win
Bushes.
for me.
Yeah.
Obama.
So the correct answer is Reagan.
I put
It is?
Obama.
Yeah.
Okay. Whew, I got scared. Gina
Yeah.
threw me off.
She
Wait,
was
one
there's
off.
two Bushes.
Yeah. So the 40th was Reagan.
Oh.
See, Jeremiah, I like that you're now. I'm going to go home. You know what's funny is I was like, okay, so we have presidents coming up, and Jeremiah's going to do it. You have to help me be smart. That's what I told Craig, and then we never did it. As you can see by my answers, I don't know that we would have studied this.
So I think overall, you guys, even though you don't know like exact numbers and stuff, you guys have an overall kind of understanding of our history of presidents. There's obviously some names in there that, throw people off because you don't really hear about them from time to time. But there are names like Reagan, Kennedy, Bush that you hear
Mm-hmm.
quite often. So I think overall, I think a majority of our citizens do have somewhat of an understanding of our previous presidents. I do think though that we could definitely strive to become more educated on that. So
Yeah.
I think to start it off, I wanted to go over the president name because that's the beginning of it all. And so at the convention, the founding fathers had a lot of discussion about what they were going to call our commander in chief. And they landed on president, obviously, but they at the time were considering his excellency or majesty. But obviously during that time, they were going against the monarchy. And so they
Right.
wanted to pick something that was more executive and excellency and
Sounds like king.
king. Yeah, those
Yeah.
type of things they wanted to break away from. So that's how we came to president.
I like that,
Yeah, I like that.
Didn't know that.
especially because I'm a president.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, obviously we're in election year this year. So you're hearing probably this term a lot, which is electoral college. Do any of you guys have like an understanding of what the electoral college is?
I think it's how many pieces they give each state according to the population, right? So California is like so many electoral
Correct.
votes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Oh my God, I'm so smart.
You're
Yes, that was
so
really good.
smart. That was great.
but I think it's super important that people understand the electoral college because a lot of people think it's like if you have 100 votes and the other guy has 99, the guy with 100 votes wins, but that's not the case. It comes down to electoral college. Now that being said, most of our presidencies, the electoral college lines up with the popular vote, but one of the most recent, which was Trump versus Clinton, that actually was divided. So the popular vote elected Clinton, and then electoral elected Trump. And so overall, we go with the electoral college. So it's super important people understand that your vote does matter. But if you're in electoral system, like if you're in California and you're voting red, your vote, I mean, I never want to say your vote doesn't matter, but your vote definitely doesn't really sway anything. And so it really came down to the founding fathers. They had two different camps. One of them were dead set in letting it be a democracy, which is, like I said, the 100 versus 99 votes. And the other camp was against that because they felt that a lot of our voters were uneducated and they wanted to set aside electors in the electoral college, which were at that time educated white men to decide who our president was going to be. Now, that has evolved over time, especially with Lincoln and even JFK and Lyndon B. Johnson to allow, more people to have a say. But overall, it does come down to our electors. So
Yeah, it makes sense.
I'm learning so much.
I know.
I love it. I'm going to go home and Greg's going to be like, this is not my gig. I'm telling you, like, I'm not into this kind of thing at all. So to me, it's cool that you're breaking down on a level that's making me want to wrap my head around it. Otherwise, I just kind of check out right away.
No,
So-
definitely. And it's easy to check out on it because it does get kind of boring at times, especially when you're watching the news. And like I said, especially in today's climate, especially with social media, and other different outlets that at one point or another were bipartisan and now are more partisan. It's hard to get a direct source of information that is reliable.
100%.
Mhm.
And so I think that really goes to show today that you have to do your own research before you make decisions. And that's how it's always been in the United States. There's always been propaganda going back to the second president, John Adams. So I think, throughout time, it's gotten worse and worse, but you always have to do your own research before you make decisions and you vote. So,
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
alrighty. So to touch back on the Electoral College, one more thing on it is I think overall it's super important to our political system because I think as you could see, a lot of you guys are probably pretty familiar with the political map. You see like the red and blue states. If it came down, and especially in today's world, if it came down to um, a few states' popular votes, you would see that the coastlines would decide every single election. So New York, California, Florida, and those states that are heavily populated, they would control every single election. So it's super important that we have the electoral system in place. And whether you believe it or not, it is definitely the most
Fair.
fair
way to elect a president.
Weren't
So-
they trying to basically like eradicate that also, like not do the electoral college?
There was a small faction of the Democrat Party back in 2016. Like I mentioned previously, that was one of the only elections where one candidate won the popular vote and the other one won the Electoral College. So there was a small faction that wanted to abolish the Electoral College, but overall, I mean, that would never pass. So,
Right.
so the next thing too is, I think you guys probably are pretty aware with like the mortgage rates right now.
Oh, yeah. They did go down a little bit.
Yeah, they went
right?
down a little bit. And same with the stock market. I'm sure you guys are kind of aware what's going on with that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people always ask, like, does the president have an effect on those things? And so by the book, technically, mortgage rates aren't affected by the president. But the president is responsible for implementing and enforcing laws, and they do have some control over our market. So this control can be direct through the president's ability to appoint cabinet secretaries, such as the head of the Department of Commerce. And different decisions he make does affect the stock market. It does affect mortgage rates. So, like I said, by the book, they don't technically sway the stock market or housing economy, but overall, and I think you see it right now, especially in election year, it does sway certain things.
For sure.
And so when the market is uncertain about who the next president's going to be, or they're worried about one of the candidates, it's going to negatively affect the stock market and vice versa. So back in 2016, when Trump was elected, right after he got elected, the stock market tanked. And that was due to people were uncertain and people were kind of uneasy about that decision. And the same happened in 2020. So I think we kind of see a repeat on that. And then it's vice versa when they get a president, like when Reagan got elected to his second term. Actually, during his first term, he went through what they called a Black Monday, which was a stock market, like a mini recession.
Mhm.
But once he was elected a second term, the days following the stock market took a huge jump. And so I think we see it with every president. He does affect certain things like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that with certain investors or like certain big money holders that they, depending on their political, their gauge, that they place their money where they want to and take it and pull it during election to make it look like certain things are happening ever? Like, do you ever think that like it can get dirty? I'm just curious because Greg does stock markets more than I do.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
There's a lot of speculation that comes to that. And a lot of people say it's like deep state. And there's people that are kind of like pulling the strings on things, which I think is true to a point.
Mhm.
I don't want to like conspiracize too much, but I definitely think like Warren Buffett recently, he took out a bunch of Bank of America stock. And so people kind of follow that same trend because he's
The
literally
leader of it.
he's literally the
Right.
goat of
Yeah.
investing in our millennia. So I think people kind of follow those trends that our leaders in the stock market do.
Mhm.
And when you see them start to pull out some of their stock or maybe invest in certain things, it makes you a little bit worried about the future of our stock market. And I think every election year, though, you're going to see a little bit of volatility in the stock market just because it's uneasy and uncertain.
Mm.
But definitely this year is definitely one of the most turbulent years for the stock market in recent years. So
Right.
besides 2008, but that was
sure.
a different story. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the terms like hawkish or dovish.
No.
So you have a hawk and a dove. So when it comes to monetary policy debates, the two perspectives are hawkish versus dovish. So hawks generally favor higher interest rates to control rising prices. So this goes with the stock market and the housing economy, while doves typically prefer lower rates to encourage economic growth. And so it used to be that the Democratic Party, especially in the early 1900s, they were more dovish, but it kind of has done a flip in recent years. And so it really comes down to when the president takes office, he appoints those people in financial cabinet positions. And if they're hawkish or dovish, that will affect the stock market as well, and it will affect our economy.
Wow.
And so when you elect a president, you have to understand that when he elects all those people in his cabinet, those people are making just as many, if not more, decisions than the president.
Wow.
Yeah,
Right. I
that
guess
makes sense.
Right? That's his team.
Never heard of it.
And
though.
so all we do most of the time is just research the president.
Right.
And
Correct.
to be fair, all we're looking at is the propaganda that we're watching. So
Correct.
if
Right.
we're CNN people, we listen to that propaganda. If we're Fox people, we listen to that propaganda. Because all propaganda.
Right.
Yeah.
But we have to do our own research.
No,
And
100%.
you have to dig deeper than what they're
Deep.
trying to show you, because
Yeah.
what they're trying to show you is, I don't know, like it's almost like going to a restaurant and they're pushing a particular fish. A lot of times that isn't because it's a brand new fish that came in; it's because they
Right.
need it to go. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah, but it makes sense that the people that are in his or her cabinet is super important.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And I think, every single president has picked their cabinet. And we definitely had some turmoil in the 1800s with that. So they called it the spoils system. So basically, when presidents were running or presidential candidates were running, they were promising certain positions to people if they helped them get elected. And Ulysses Grant kind of helped dissolve that. And it was a good thing because they weren't really picking people based on their qualifications. They were just picking people because they were donating money or helping them.
Buddies.
Oh.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you're starting to see that a little bit
yeah,
again.
you are. Mhm.
And it's a scary thing to see because people are getting positions that they're not qualified for, and it's hurting our country in negative ways. And so I think we need to go back to who's the most qualified for the position. And
It's not always based on your wallet.
yeah, you have to
kind
look
of
at it
thing.
more as a business and not, a
Business.
fundraiser and a sponsorship.
Well
Yeah,
put.
Pick the best man or woman for the job.
Exactly. And so from the election of Lincoln all the way to Grover Cleveland, and then following all the way until Woodrow Wilson, there was a period of about 50 to 60, like 55 years where it was all Republican presidents, only one Democratic president.
Oh wow.
Wow.
And the one Democrat president who was elected, he was actually elected twice, so he served 2 terms, but he was the only president that served non-consecutive terms. So you usually see like Washington served 2 terms in a row, Reagan served 2 terms in a row. So Grover Cleveland, he was the Democratic president during that time. He served as the 22nd president and the 24th president.
Oh, wow.
He came
Yeah.
back.
He came back from the dead.
Is that the only president that's ever done that?
Correct. And so right now in this election year, if Trump were to win,
He would be the next
he would
one.
be the next one. So he'd be the 45th and the 47th. And so a lot of political nerds are going crazy about that, whether they like
It's
Trump
kinda-
or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think during that time period, you saw a lot of changes for good and bad because a lot of the people that were taking office were all of the same mind. And so we actually progressed a ton as a country during that time because we were just getting a lot of stuff done.
Oh, yeah.
And because there's not one
Yeah,
versus
right.
the other, because a lot of times, Bush goes into office, he makes these changes, and then Obama comes in and he
Reverses
he
them all.
reverses
Just
all of them.
tears it down.
So we
Mhm.
had a lot of growth during that time. Now, that being said, there was a lot of things that happened that weren't beneficial to the overall state of the United States. But that being said, it progressed us in a lot of ways. And during that time, we saw a lot of innovation, a lot of growth. And that's when we really became a powerhouse.
Mm.
And to touch back on Grover Cleveland, have you guys heard of the candy bar Baby Ruth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who do you think Baby Ruth is named after?
Well, you would think.
I know, so I can't say it.
Batter up. You would think
His
baseball.
dad's the one
player.
that gave me this history, so that's why I know.
Oh, you know it?
Yeah, so I won't say.
Yeah.
Not after the baseball player?
No.
It's after his daughter. You're
Yep.
gonna tell me it's after his
Yep.
daughter. Her name was Ruth or something.
Correct.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Oh, I was only joking.
And so
But
that's a little
still,
fun fact about him. Now
That's
they
crazy.
Mhm.
I don't know if they've ever given like a official answer, but that's the answer. And so I think it's pretty cool that we have a candy bar named after a president's daughter.
I do too.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
he's a pretty interesting president, like I said, because he didn't give up. He was motivated to get back in office a second time.
Now I have all these
And-
questions though. Like, was the baby born when he was in office, and how many kids does he have, and what?
So
Like-
he actually I believe he got married while he was in office. I believe he was
Oh,
one
so
of the
it
only presidents to
was.
do that. Yeah. And there was a lot of speculation when it came to his marriage because the woman was a lot younger than him, and he had known her when she was a child.
Oh.
And so there was a little bit of allegations when it came to that. And there's a book, I haven't read it, but I've heard about it, that kind of goes more deep into his misconducts and allegations. I think another interesting thing about him is he had a few tumors in his jaw during his presidency. I think it was his 24th term, so his
Wow.
second term.
They were cancer, right? He had mouth cancer.
He had
Oh, he
mouth cancer,
did?
and
Yeah.
so he didn't want the public to know that he had cancer at the time. So they put him on a yacht or a boat, and they performed surgery on his maxilla, which is his jawline,
Oh,
and they actually had to put a prosthetic there.
So we had a fake jaw back then.
Correct. And what they did, and
That's
it
insane.
actually didn't affect his speech, but he had to grow facial hair to kind of to hide it. But
Wow.
at that time, it was pretty big news, and his doctors didn't say anything until I want to say it was like 20 years after he.
Oh,
He
you
passed
couldn't
away,
have
or
you couldn't have
he
that
was-
type of
No.
secrets in today's world.
Mm-mm.
No, but I think that really shows
way.
that during that time, people
loyal.
respected the president's office so much, and that's kind of what upsets me nowadays. Like even, there's presidents that I haven't been so keen on. But that being said, the president's office does deserve our respect because what they take on is a lot, and the pressure that they have to go under is a ton. And like I said, whether
They're
they
your
do
guy
a
or
good
not.
job or
Yeah.
not, they really do try to make a positive impact. They're not trying to destroy our country. And, whether the steps
Right.
they make are the steps that we want to see done or not, I truly believe that all of
They're
our
always
presidents.
going to be hated by
Oh,
by
100%.
half or whatever. You know, and the
100%.
other part that didn't get their way. It seems like it's a thankless job in some sense.
And one thing that I'll never understand is no matter who's president, and there's been presidents that we've had in my lifetime that I don't agree with anything pretty much that they do, but I still love my country and I would never want to hurt my president. And I sure in the hell wouldn't want any other country to touch or hurt my president. It didn't matter who it was, whether it was a man or woman that I voted for or not.
Well, I'll be honest, I wasn't super pleased with our current president, right? But that doesn't mean that I don't respect however it was that it was brought in, if as long as it was done legally, you know what I mean? And that was the way it worked out, then that's what
That's my president.
That's
Whether
what we have to do.
yeah, whether we
I
support that or not.
I support. It's not my president.
Not
I'm just
my
joking.
president. That is not-
but you did sign up whenever you
missing
chose to
man.
vote, like when that you respect whatever it is, and that's what we did. Is we sat back
I love
and
my
wait,
country.
and that's the way it is.
I love my
You know?
country.
And
Period.
exactly,
And
and regardless if you win or not.
I think the last time we really had it where the majority of the people were behind their president was during Reagan's second term. And during that term, he only lost one state. No, he lost DC too, but he only lost one electoral state, which was Minnesota, which was the
Wow.
home state of Walter Mondale, his opponent. And the rumor is, it was never confirmed, but Reagan purposely didn't campaign in Minnesota because he wanted Mondale to win his home state. And
Aw.
so I don't know if that's true or not, but whether or not that was a huge landslide, pretty much, I mean, it was almost unanimous.
Say it again. Say it
Say it
again.
3 times fast.
I can't say that word. But that was probably the last time that we've been fully, the country has been fully behind a president and behind his policies. And so I'd like to see that one day come back. I don't know if it ever will
I
because I
know,
feel like we're
right?
so divided. But I think it was probably, I mean, I wasn't alive during that time, but it was probably a pretty good time to be alive when everyone, the general consensus was we stand behind our president. We fight for our country.
Yeah, we're red, white, blue kind of.
you know,
Kind of like World War II.
Yeah, no,
how
100%.
everybody got behind. Didn't matter who you voted for. You were about our country.
100%. And I think, right now we have the 22nd Amendment in place, which makes sure the president doesn't serve more than 2 terms. So they're
like
legally
that.
obligated to only serve 2 terms, nothing more. Now, during World War II, our president served 4 terms. He died in his 4th term. And a lot of people would look at in that and say that, he was trying to be a monarch. He was trying to be a king. And I'm not the biggest fan of Franklin Roosevelt. But that being said, I think during that time we needed one
Strong
person
leader.
in office
Stability,
the entire
too.
time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't be switching our political leader in the middle of a
Agreed.
world
we
crisis.
wouldn't be taken seriously by other countries.
100%.
and the
100%.
leadership.
And so I think it was super important at that time that we maintained our leader. And I think the 22nd Amendment was definitely necessary after that to ensure that no one else would do that, because you don't want a monarch. That's not what the founding fathers wanted. And that's why Washington, after his 2nd term, they wanted him to stay president until he died, basically. And he walked away on his horse and he said, I'm done. I'm setting the president for the rest of you guys. No one, basically no one serves more than 2 terms. And so I think that was super, like I said, each president, whether we like them or not, has set precedents that have held true to this day, whether they're in written law or not.
Yeah.
And I think, to me, Washington's my favorite president.
Yeah. Tell me why.
It's hard to beat him because he really set, like I said, he set the foundation of what our country was. And he took on a risk knowing that our country might not happen. It might happen. If we didn't win, he was going to be hung. And all of his other compadres were going to be hung too.
Literally like life or death. If he
It was life or
win.
death. And he was doing it
Wow.
not for himself or even his kids necessarily. He was doing it for us. And he knew that if he set it up the right way and he fought for what the United States could be, that we could create a country of our own and have our own beliefs and have our own values. And I think, I don't know if we'll ever see a leader like George Washington again. And I think going in all of world history, he's one of our greatest leaders.
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah. And we've had some not so great leaders either that have kind of put us back too. And I think, like I said, there's Democrat presidents, there's Republican presidents, there's Whig presidents, there's Democratic Republican presidents. So it hasn't always been Democrat versus Republican. That being said, there's a few presidents that always fall at the bottom of the list. And
Carter
does fall pretty low. Now,
Carter's
that being
pretty
said,
low.
he was a nice guy and he had good
Mhm.
moral values, so he doesn't really fall like towards the bottom three usually. What
Because he
you
wasn't
But
malicious.
on policy,
What-
but on policy, he falls.
100%. And if you look at the presidents, basically 10 to 15, all those presidents were one-term presidents, and then you had Lincoln at 16. So from 10 to 15, those presidents are considered our worst string of presidents in our history because they really did nothing to stop the Civil War. They just kind of let it unfold, and they're all super weak leaders. And so you see like the 15th president, James Buchanan, he usually falls at the very bottom or second to bottom. And you see Millard Fillmore and Franklin Pierce, they both are 13 and 14. They both fall usually towards the bottom ladder of the list as well.
Why do you think they didn't do anything about the Civil War?
Their hands were kind of tied because the Civil War was pretty much inevitable at that point with the Missouri Compromise and the 3/5 compromise. It was inevitable, but they didn't want to get their hands dirty. And a few of them had their hands kind of tied too because they were Southern sympathizers. So that means that they weren't necessarily from the South, but they had a lot of cronies that were Southerners, and they felt like they owed not just the North a say, but also the South. And so they really did nothing to kind of stop the Civil War from taking place. And so that's why they really fall at the bottom of that list. And also, they only had one term. And so when you only serve one term, there's only so much you can do
Yeah, that makes sense.
already. So we talked a little bit about the worst presidents. And like I said, a lot of those are kind of a general consensus that kind of puts them towards the bottom part of that list. And it goes, the same way for the ones that are at the top of the list. So a lot of times at the top of the list, you see the names of Washington, you see Jefferson, you see John F. Kennedy, you see Franklin Roosevelt, you see Ronald Reagan. You usually see those names at the top of the list because overall, whether you agreed on their moral values or their beliefs, they had a generally positive impact on the progression of our nation.
Lincoln would be one.
Right.
Lincoln for sure. And I think, especially because I was in AP government and AP history, I see a lot of more of the flaws of those guys that are at the top of the list. And so I'm not as favorable as other people are to some of those people on that list.
Right.
But that being said, I do respect what they have done for our country. And I see why they've had not only political impact, but also cultural impact. And I think John F. Kennedy is the first one that comes to mind when it comes to cultural impact because he didn't even serve a full term. And so when I would hear people, because in high school, I was always like, "Oh, who's your top 3 presidents?" And,
You would ask.
That's the kind of guy he is. This
Yeah.
is the kind of kid you're dealing with.
And so like when I'd hear people say John F. Kennedy in my head, I'm like, why would you pick him? He didn't even serve a full term. Like he couldn't even make any political changes because he wasn't around long enough. But that being said, he had a lot of cultural impact, and especially with his assassination too, it kind of got us all back, fighting for our country and really
Yes. I
patriotic.
feel like he talked a lot about things that a lot of people were afraid to talk about, and he didn't quite have the security that was needed. You know what I
Apparently.
mean? My point is that like he was talking about some really intense subjects, and they did not want him. You know what I mean? So if I had to say I like JFK, it's because he was pushing the envelope
Yeah.
Right.
on the truth.
At that time, he definitely was. And also, he was super charismatic and he was a great, great orator. And I think if you hear a few of his speeches, you understand that
It's like Obama. Obama was a
Oh,
phenomenal
he
speaker.
puts Obama to shame though,
yeah.
and he takes him to the cleaners. And
Yeah.
I think another one that comes to mind for me is Bill Clinton.
Great
Phenomenal speaker. And whether you agree with him or not, he was the type of person when you heard him speak at a State of the Union or in the Oval Office, you got behind him because
And then he had a charisma, just
yeah.
like JFK.
Yeah.
Both womenizers, but
Yep.
at the same time, they have a charisma that males and females are attracted to, and charisma counts whether we like that or not. So when you have an old white man that's in there that is bringing no charisma to the table, it really is unattractive to people.
Other leaders can't. You know what I mean? They need someone to be able
People
to.
like charisma.
Right, they do. And it's a challenge in a
The
sense.
cultural change, kind of like what he's talking about. When you have someone young like JFK in there who's intelligent, articulated really well, those are things that people are attracted to.
And it forces them to rise to that. They don't have to just go, oh, well, my opponent is like this, like small and can't speak like this. So I don't have to show. Now, whenever they come up against these really charismatic leaders that can speak really well, I feel like it forces them to now have to speak
Levels
as
up.
well. Yeah.
And even ones that don't speak well, that's a whole nother thing of charisma. Like I would say that Trump has that. You know, he kind of speaks like the average guy. You know, he's got a lot of cuss words in there. He's talking plain English to everyone, but he's very manly and he's very alpha, and people respect that. Whether certain people like that or not, other men respect other alpha males, and it shows.
100%. And with John F. Kennedy, he was kind of the first president that really was shown on TV. And that was a huge impact too, because before that, it was mostly radio. And so once you saw JFK's face on TV, a lot of
Pretty boy.
it got a lot of women to vote. And before then, a lot of women weren't voting, even though they had the right to vote at that point. A lot of them just stayed out of it. They felt like,
even though we were the last ones allowed to vote.
I know, pretty crazy. But that being said, when they saw his face on TV, it made the decision a little bit easier for him.
He's pretty talking too,
And
right?
when it comes to orators, the last one I want to touch on is Reagan. He was kind of a different perspective when it came to oration. He wasn't like JFK. He wasn't like Clinton. He wasn't Mr. Smooth. And that being said, though, he was super charismatic. And I think what really helped him was he was an actor. And so when you act, you're playing characters that aren't really yourself. And he really knew how to use that to his full advantage. And he knew how to get the crowd going behind him while still speaking super articulate. And he always, laid down the law. And I think he was probably, him and Clinton are our last great orators. And now that being said, how you speak doesn't determine how good your political policies are. And so I think people need to understand that when they hear someone speak on TV, 100% is that whether they speak good or not does not mean they're going to make a good president. That being said, it makes them, that president will be easier to be elected and will be respected more if he's a great speaker.
Yeah. It's easier to be respected when you speak well.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jeremiah, you are such a pleasure. I love
thank
you. I'm
Hopefully
so
I'm not
glad
boring
you
you guys
came
too
on.
much.
You're not boring us.
You
Okay.
are not. Stop it.
Alrighty. So next is I said I wouldn't really dive too much deep into like my political beliefs or anything like that, and which I'm not. But I'm going to go over a list of some presidents I feel like are underrated in our history. So a few of these names you've probably heard before. A few you probably haven't. So the first one, in my opinion, is right up in there in my top 5 is James Knox Polk. So he was our 11th president, and he was considered a dark horse candidate. So at the time, that was. Have you guys heard the term dark horse before?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you hear it a lot, like whether it comes to sports or even politics or whatever it is. When it comes to a competition, the dark horse is usually the candidate or the person that you feel most people feel like is probably not going to win. He's kind of the underdog. And so at that time, he was considered the underdog. And when they asked him what he was going to do in office, he laid down a set plan of what he was going to do. And he said, after one term, I'm done. And he made a promise of what he was going to do. And so when he took the oath of office, he said, I'm not going to serve a second term, no matter how good you think I am or how I do or how I perform. This will be it. And so he served from 1845 to 1849. He acquired Oregon, California, New Mexico, and he helped settle the Texas border as well. And at that point, he lowered tariff rates and established the Department of Interior. And so he set out pretty much every single promise that he made, he fulfilled, and he walked away from the president's office.
Man.
Nothing like a man that keeps his word.
I love that.
And
Yeah,
that's why
right?
he's my favorite, is he was just a man of his word. And he never tried to show off, or he was super humble, super quiet, but he got his stuff done and he got out. And that
Those
was it.
quiet ones you got to worry about.
100%.
Right.
100%. And I think, he died right after he went out of office. And I think, honestly, the stress of the
He
office.
probably knew he was going to die too.
Yeah, and
as
that
possible.
too. And so I think just a combination of things, he knew that this was it for him, kind of. And he was truly one of the presidents that he just wanted to progress the country. It wasn't about his beliefs or what he thought was better. He just wanted to make sure that our country was set up for success.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And he was the president during the Alamo too.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Fun fact.
I love
Yep.
that.
So my next president I have on this list is William McKinley. He was the 25th president. He served from 1897 to 1901. So you think, okay, 2 terms. He served 1897 to 1901. That seems short, which it is because he was assassinated in office.
Oh, wow.
And
Wait, what?
yeah,
Did you guys know that?
No,
Mm-mm.
that's what.
yeah. So we've had 4 presidents assassinated in office. So it was Lincoln, James Garfield, and then McKinley, and then Kennedy.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so those 2, Garfield and McKinley, they kind of fly under the radar. I think it's because, like I said, the cultural impact of the Kennedy and the Lincoln assassinations, get kind of overblown at times, where these 2, they just really fly under the radar. Especially because McKinley, the guy that took over from him, is none other than Teddy Roosevelt. And so it kind of established, and when you transition to Teddy Roosevelt, I mean, he's a really strong leader as well. And so there wasn't a lot of turmoil.
So they forgot about it.
So they kind of forgot about it. That being said, though, he really progressed our country in a lot of positive ways as well.
A lot of it has to do with how media talks about it too.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if they're glorifying or talking a lot about, like, say, JFK's, you know what I mean? There's a lot of
Spent a lot on
there's
that.
a lot of
yeah.
scandalous things that
Oh,
were
yeah,
around that.
100%.
So it was
And
easier for them to push.
Exactly. And like Garfield and McKinley, they weren't super scandalous men, and they weren't charismatic. They weren't super good looking. And so, when
Boring.
Yeah,
I'm
when
just
they were-
kidding.
yeah,
I'm just
when they were assassinated, it was like, okay.
Doesn't matter what they did in Andy's book.
True.
Andy's like, oh, that doesn't matter.
True. And I believe it was after McKinley is when they finally set up the Secret Service. And so before McKinley, there was no Secret Service for the president. There was actually a period, I think it was
shoot.
from Washington probably to Lincoln or just after Lincoln, where you could literally knock on the president's door, the White House, and if he was there, they'd open. Sometimes the president would answer, "Hey, how's it going?"
I don't even answer my own door. I
Yeah.
seem sorry.
Yeah, I don't know how much they did that,
The
At
president of
risk.
Raleigh Incorporated does not answer
Yeah.
the door.
but obviously things have to change because people get crazy, and so
We've seen that.
yeah,
Right.
and even leading up to this year when Trump was almost assassinated, you see that whether how much protection you have or think you have, there's always a chance for assassination.
There's always a Looney Tune.
There's always a Looney Tune out there who has a plan.
And a weak link.
Yeah, there's always a weak link too,
Mhm.
and you're only as strong as your weakest link. So,
Mhm.
Word.
I think we have to be careful with how we protect our president too. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, why do we need to spend $50 million on protecting our president?" But you don't understand that if our leader goes down,
We go
the
down.
country will crumble.
It's our greatest asset at the
Yeah.
moment. Like
100%.
whoever is
Absolutely.
president.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless, like if you want to go above and beyond and talk about what's really important, but get
course.
philosophical about it, but really, truly, the leadership is
Leadership's everything.
right.
100%. And so my last one I want to go over is Calvin Coolidge, which was our 30th president. And they nicknamed him Silent Cal because he was super quiet. And there's a
The
story.
quiet ones.
Yeah, right. There's a story about him. A reporter was, they back in that time they would invite reporters to eat dinner with them.
What
And
the
yeah,
heck?
right.
Can you imagine that now?
Now you never see Jake Tapper and Trump having dinner together. That wouldn't really happen. But I believe it was like a Thanksgiving press dinner or something like that. And the reporter said, "My friend said if you say more than 3 words, he'll give me $50." It was something along those lines. And all Calvin Coolidge says was, "You lose."
That's so great.
Yeah.
Oh, I
And
love
so
it.
I like him in that sense. But also
That's funny.
while he was president, he served a term and a half, a little over a term and a half. And that was Warren Harding. He was our 29th president. He actually died in office, not assassinated, but he passed away in office. And so Calvin took over for him. He served the rest of that term, and then he served another term after that. And while he was president, the debt went from 22 to 16, a little over 16 billion. And so he reduced our debt. He was the one that passed the Indian Citizenship Act. So all of the Native Americans were allowed to become citizens, which was super important. He also made sure that our forests were protected. And so he kind of had the same philosophy when it came to our national parks as Teddy Roosevelt did, that we have to build and expand, but at the same time, we shouldn't take out what was here before we got here. I think that's super important. You have to preserve certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really respect that about him too. And the last thing was he had a laissez-faire mindset when it came to our economy. And laissez-faire is a French term, and that means basically that you're not going to interfere with the market, especially if it's going right. And so he kind of had this idea that, hey, the stock market, this was during the roaring 20s. And so he had this mindset, hey, everything's going great. I'm not going to dip my toes in the water. I'm just going to let the citizens and the free market play out. That being said, some people kind of point him towards why the stock market did crash. He wasn't the president when it did crash, but I did like that about him. He kind of just, like, he knew his position as president and the power that he had, but he also let the citizens of the United States and the free market kind of determine how the economy would play out.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, thank you, Jeremiah, for taking the time today to give us a little history lesson. So that's a wrap up for us for our journey in the lives of our U.S. presidents. A big thank you to Jeremiah for sharing his insight and bringing history to life. As always, tribe members, stay curious, stay learning, and remember, our past shapes our future. This is Mighty Mo. Feel blessed, be blessed.